Have you ever noticed how some people just seem to navigate interactions more smoothly than others? They just ask for things and it works out.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely a skill, isn't it? And often it really boils down to, well, the subtle art of polite requests.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's precisely what we're digging into today. We're doing a deep dive into making those polite requests in English sound, natural and effective.
Right. We've been looking at this episode from the English podcast. It's called How to Use Polite Requests in English. And it has some really practical, useful stuff in there.
Yeah, it does. And for you listening, our mission really is to give you some simple but pretty powerful ways to make your own English requests sound more natural, more respectful.
Which in turn just leads to smoother communication all around. It's not just about getting what you need.
It's about the connection too.
Exactly. And politeness, it isn't just some fluffy social extra. It's actually crucial for communicating effectively. It can open doors, build goodwill.
Make things happen more easily.
Pretty much, yeah. Helping you get where you want to go.
Okay, so the podcast episode, it sort of kicked things off by showing this really clear difference. A direct command versus a polite request.
Right. The classic example, someone just blurting out, "Give me that book."
Yeah, kind of abrupt.
Very abrupt. And then you compare that to something like, "Could you please pass me that book?"
Huge difference.
Massive.
Yeah.
The first one feels demanding, maybe even a bit rude. The second one, though, it's considerate, respectful. It just lands totally differently.
Right. And one of the first sort of foundational phrases they talked about was "could you." Simple, versatile.
It really is a workhorse, that one. The example they used was, "Could you help me with my homework?" It's direct, but it's softened. Good for all sorts of everyday things.
Okay, building on that, they brought up, "Would you mind?" Now, they mentioned this one feels maybe a bit more polite.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that, do you think? What's the subtle thing there?
That's a good question. I think "would you mind" often comes before a request that might take a bit more effort. Or maybe it could possibly inconvenience the other person slightly.
Ah, okay.
So phrasing it that way kind of acknowledges that potential imposition up front. Like their example, "Would you mind closing the window?" It's gentle. It recognizes you're asking them to maybe change their comfort level a tiny bit.
That makes sense.
But, it's interesting. They also sort of hinted at how tone matters hugely here.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, you could say, "Would you mind?" with a really flat tone. And it might actually sound a bit, passive aggressive.
Right, I can see that.
But with a genuine sort of upward inflection, a questioning tone, that really brings out the politeness. So context and how you say it are key.
That's a really crucial point about tone. And, the podcast also touched on something I think a lot of learners worry about.
What's that?
This fear of sounding too formal, using these polite structures and feeling a bit stiff.
Yeah, I get that. It's a valid concern. But honestly, in most English-speaking places, leaning towards politeness is almost always the safer bet.
Better than being too blunt.
Way better. It's much less likely to cause offense than being too direct. You can kind of think of politeness on a scale, maybe.
Okay.
Like, "Can you, please?" That's your good everyday baseline. "Could you?" adds a bit more deference. "Would you mind?" Maybe for things that are a bit more of an ask.
Right.
And then there's the next one they mentioned.
Yeah. Would it be possible to? They said this one often sounds more professional.
Exactly. Would it be possible to? Often gets used in, say, business emails, or when you're genuinely not sure if your request is feasible. It shows a bit of humility.
Okay.
The example was, "Would it be possible to change the meeting time?" It makes the request, but also signals you understand there might be constraints.
Gotcha. Then switching gears slightly to something maybe more everyday, "Can you please?" Simple, accessible.
Totally. Just adding that simple word "please" to the basic "can you" makes a world of difference. It softens it right up.
Beef the edge off.
It really does. Their example, "Can you please send me the email?" Perfect illustration. Easy to use, makes it polite.
Now, they also spend a bit of time on those little words that make a big impact. Please, thank you, and sometimes sorry. They called them magic words.
And they really aren't there. They show you're considering the other person, that you see their effort or the potential bother.
Just acknowledging them.
Yes. Even a simple please, like we just said, can turn what might feel like a demand into a proper request. And the source mentioned how these words just create a better vibe for the whole interaction, even if the answer to the request is no.
Yeah, that's true. And they had this great little anecdote to show the difference. Someone ordering coffee really bluntly, just saying, I want a coffee.
Oh, dear. Yes. And as they pointed out, that approach, well, it probably doesn't get you the friendliest service.
I'll bet.
Compare that to, could I have a coffee, please? It's such a tiny change.
But the impact is huge.
Huge on how you come across, the response you get. I mean, I've seen it myself. Someone just adds, please.
Yeah.
And the whole interaction changes. Quicker service, a smile.
It works. And finally, the podcast guys offered some really good encouragement, just reminding people that it's okay to practice this stuff. Mistakes will happen. It's part of learning.
Oh, that's so important. Language learning is practice. It's trying things out. You can't let the fear of not getting it perfect stop you from using these polite forms. Just got to go for it.
Absolutely. Okay, so just to quickly recap those key phrases we pulled from the English podcast we had. Could you?
Yep. Would you mind?
Can you, please?
And the more formal, would it be possible to?
Right. And underpinning all of that.
Those essential little boosters. Please and thank you. Seriously, make them your friends.
Definitely. So here's a challenge for you listening today. Something really manageable. Just try consciously to use one polite request in English. Just one.
Yeah, like a little experiment. Think about a situation coming up where maybe you'd normally be more direct.
And just try swapping in one of these phrases.
See what happens. You might actually be surprised by the response you get. It could feel, smoother.
Exactly. And look, as you keep practicing, these ways of asking become more automatic. It leads to better interactions, more positive feelings, and honestly, a real boost in your confidence speaking English.
Which, makes me wonder, thinking beyond just language learning, how might deliberately using slightly more polite phrasing in all our interactions, whatever the language, actually reshape our relationships day to day?
That's interesting.
It's a small shift, right? But maybe it has bigger ripple effects than we think. Something to ponder, anyway.